What's up guys, it's Ella. Welcome to my channel, whether you're new here or not. Today we are going to be tier ranking popular booktok books. I'm actually kind of nervous for this one because I feel like some of my booktok book opinions aren't the most popular. By the way, any weird noises you hear is my dog, Crosby. He's a weird dude. So, just so you all know, this is not an original idea. I saw Sarah Caroli do this, I've seen Destiny Sidwell do this, and I've seen a lot of other people do this. So, I will leave the link to the tier ranking, the link to whatever I use to tier rank, and let's just get started. So, first what we are going to do is we are going to go through all of the different book tiers, or all the different rating tiers that I have. I wasn't feeling very creative with them. I've seen some people do like really cute creative ones. I wasn't feeling very creative. So, first one. This is a book I have not read but would like to maybe read. These are books on my TBR. Once again, I'm reminding you, any bizarre sound you hear is Crosby being just ever the delight. The next section, this is a book I will never read, and you're probably not going to convince me otherwise. I have like solid reasons why I will not read this book. This is a book I wish I hadn't read, a book that I did read and hated it. This was a book I have read. This is a book I read and I don't really have anything more to say about it. It wasn't good, it wasn't bad. I don't think about it. This is a book I have read and would recommend. Self-explanatory. I've read this book, I recommend. This is a book that I have read and loved and would recommend. And then this is a book I have read, loved, and made my entire personality for several months, because that's usually what I do with a favorite book. So, let's get into these bad boys. Let's preface this by saying, these are my opinions. Don't get offended. These are my opinions. Okay. So, the first book is My Dark Vanessa. This is a book I will never read. This is a book that does not appeal to me. My Dark Vanessa is a book that does not appeal to me and is not a book that I am planning on ever reading because I've heard that it's like a dark academia, but I don't know. I'm not gonna read it. Okay. Verity by Colleen Hoover. This is a book I have not read but would like to maybe read and will probably read quite soon. So stay tuned for that. This is a Colleen Hoover that does very much interest me, although throughout this you will notice my feelings on Colleen Hoover are perhaps different than a lot of people's. Hi. He's very excited because I'm on the floor. The Deal by L. Kennedy. This is a book I have read. This is a book that I have read and then didn't think about it at all. Have not thought about it since because it's not the best romance I've ever read. It's not the worst romance I've ever read. I think it is incredibly overhyped. That's lovely. Thank you, Crosby. This is a book I have read. Ugly Love. This is a book I have read and would recommend. It's usually, I've had a lot of people over. Oh my god. Recording with dogs is like recording with children, I think. This feels impossible. Anyway. Okay. I'm so sorry, guys. I know this video is a certified mess. This is Editing Ella here to tell you that I can hear Crosby's chewing, okay, as I'm going back and editing. I hear it. It's driving me nuts, too. And it goes away soon. I put him outside, and he goes away, and you don't hear his chewing anymore. So I'm hoping that you can just stick with me for a few more minutes, because it does go away, but also it's driving me nuts, too. So I just fast forward, and it goes away. Okay, that's all. Hope you enjoy the video. Sorry, it's a certified hot mess. Yeah, this is a book I have read and would recommend. I've had a lot of people this summer especially come up to me or message me and ask what my favorite Colleen Hoover book is or where I would recommend people start with Colleen Hoover books, and I always say Ugly Love. It's a book that I strongly recommend. Twisted Love. This is a book I have not read but would maybe like to read. I didn't want to read it. It was a book that I will never read, because I've heard like the first book in the series isn't that good. However, I am interested in reading some of the other books in the series, but I would read the whole series. So this is a book I have not read, but maybe I will end up reading it at some point if the mood strikes. November 9th by Colleen Hoover. This is a book I will never read. I have a best friend who read this book, and she said that she recommends Crosby, that I know they can hear that. I put the dog out, so hopefully you won't be able to hear him. Anyway, where was I? November 9th. I have a friend who, my best friend actually, who says that I won't really enjoy November 9th, and I really trust her judgment, therefore I will never, ever read it. From Luke Off with Love. This is a book that I have read and loved and made my entire personality for several months. I love From Luke Off with Love. Mariana Zapata, loving Mariana Zapata is still a huge personality trait for me. I absolutely love that book, love that author, whole personality. Hook, Line, and Sinker. This is a book I have read, not read and would recommend. As you will see later, because I think it's on here, it is. I loved It Happened One Summer, but I will honestly say I was very disappointed in Hook, Line, and Sinker. I don't know. I don't know if, I just didn't really like Fox as a character. I loved Hannah as a character. I just wasn't super invested. I was very disappointed. I talk about it a little bit in my all the books I read so far this year and mid-year book freak-out tag, if you're curious on my extended feelings on those books. Beach Read. Beach Read is probably my favorite romance book of all time. Beach Read, All Roads Lead Here, and Love in Other Words, which is also on this list. So Beach Read, this is a book I've read, loved, and made my entire personality for not just several months, okay? For like ever. If you are a close personal friend of mine who reads, I've probably gifted you this book. So, that's that. The Spanish Love Deception. So this is a book I have read and loved and made my entire personality for several months. I love Aaron Blackford. I absolutely loved that book. And I am so excited for the next one. The American Roommate Experiment comes out September 6th, and I'm so excited. Okay, sorry. Had to be real for a sec. Culty by Mariana Zapata. I just went on this whole I love Mariana Zapata, but this is a book I have not read but would like to maybe read. I have a signed copy of this book, so I should probably read it, huh? Okay, The Inheritance Games. This is a book I've read. I will not continue with the series. I just thought it was okay. A lot of people said, like, if you like the Truly Devious series, you'll like this book. That's not true, because I absolutely love the Truly Devious series. And I did not like this book. So, I will not be reading that one. Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. This is a book I have not read but would maybe like to read. It's YA romance, and I'm not a huge fan of YA romance. However, Haley Pham loves it, and I think some other people have talked about loving it, and it has a lot of good reviews. So I will give it a shot, but I'm not super motivated, but I also won't say that I'll never read it. They Both Die at the End. This is a book I read, and it's simply that, because I read it in hardcover. The year it came out in 2015 or whatever, and I don't remember what it's about. After, this is a book I will never read for, I feel like, pretty self-explanatory reasons, but I think it's weird that it's written by Harry Styles, and I will not be reading it. The Midnight Library. This is a book I will never read. I thought about it. I know that so many people love it, but I've heard it's boring, and I can't do boring books, guys. I cannot do boring books. Daisy Jones and the Six. Now, this one is complicated, because technically, I've read part of this book, but I DNF'd it. So I'm still going to, but I would like to give it another try. So I'm going to put it in. This is a book I have not read, but would maybe like to read, because I have read it, but I didn't give it, I feel like, enough of a chance. So I will do better, I suppose. People We Meet on Vacation. This is a book I've read and loved. I loved People We Meet on Vacation. It didn't become my entire personality, but I read it and I loved it, and I recommend it to people. Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is a book I've read. So I have no more thoughts on that. I'm not a Taylor Jenkins Reid fan. I wish I was. I'm not. We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. This is a book I wish I hadn't read. It was unnecessary. I didn't need to read that. I hated that book. Funny You Should Ask. I hated the way I just said that. This is a book I have not read, but would definitely like to read. Definitely. Yeah. This is a book that I would definitely like to read. I'm excited to read it. Every time I go to Barnes & Noble, I look at it and I'm like, I should buy this book, and then I just never do. So I will at some point. Every Last Word. I've never heard of this book, so I've never heard anything either way, so I'm not gonna discount it if I one day hear something amazing about it, maybe I'll read it. Shatter Me is another book that I have not read but would like to maybe read. I actually think I'm going to read it this month or next month. I've heard good things about it. I know Sarah Caroli is reading the series right now and really loves it. So I'm going to give it a shot. I've tried to give it a shot I own the book and I've tried to start the book before, but I guess I just wasn't in the mood for it's like a dystopian, I think. I don't think it's a fantasy. I think it's a dystopian. 1,000 Boy Kisses. This is the book I've read. I don't think that it lives up to all the hype that it gets. Bunny. Okay. I would say that this is a book I will never read. However, something about it intrigues me, and I'm not going to say never. However, with Circe, I'm going to say never. I don't have any desire to read that. I haven't heard great things about it. And I'm probably never going to read it. The Song of Achilles. This is a book I have read and would recommend. I don't think it's the best thing in the entire world, like a lot of people do. I know it's a lot of people's favorite book of all time. Not that for me, but I did enjoy it. It Happened One Summer. This is still kind of my personality, actually. This is a book I've read, loved, and made my entire personality for several months. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think the several months are over. I absolutely love It Happened One Summer. I absolutely love Tessa Bailey. And yeah, so that's that. The Cruel Prince. This is a book I read and loved. I loved it. I loved that whole series. The other two books in the series, I would say I made it my personality for several months. But The Cruel Prince is a book I read and loved. If We Were Villains... This is a book I have not read, but would maybe like to read. Specifically this fall. Punk 57. This is a book I wish I hadn't read. I hated Punk 57. I was so disappointed. I'm not a Penelope Douglas person, even though I wish I was a Penelope Douglas person because everybody loves her books. No. I will say, I have not read Birthday Girl. I'm willing to give that one a try, but there is no other book that she has written that appeals to me besides Birthday Girl. And that's that. A Court of Thorns and Roses. This is a book I have read. I would recommend it. This is a book I have read and would recommend strictly because other people really, really enjoy it. If you asked me for my favorite fantasy, I would not say A Court of Thorns and Roses by any means, but there has to be something that I'm missing that other people might enjoy because everybody loves it. So I would recommend it just because so many other people love it. But in terms of how I feel about it, this is just a book I have read. I don't know if that made any sense. It made sense to me. It made sense in my head. Neon Gods, book I'll never read. I'm not a Greek mythology person, and I'm not a overly if the only way a book is advertised is by appealing to its spice. Not for me. All Your Perfects. This is a book I will never read. This is the other Colleen Hoover one that I'm really against. There's a couple, not against, I don't have any desire to read All Your Perfects. If I'm gonna pick up another Colleen Hoover, I'm not picking up that one. Six of Crows. This is a book I have read, loved, and made my entire personality for several months. I absolutely loved that book. And I loved the duology, and several months, that was my personality. It's my favorite, probably my favorite fantasy book of all time. Red, White, and Royal Blue. This is a book I have read and loved. I did love that book. It didn't stick with me as much as I thought it would afterwards because at the time I gave it 5 stars, absolutely loved it. And that was probably a year and a half ago, and I haven't I haven't really thought about it much since, but it was a book that at the time I read and loved. A Little Life. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I've heard that it's kind of just trauma porn, and I will not be participating in that. That it's like this book that tries to be super deep and is just trauma dumping, and I'm not reading that. You've Reached Sam. I'm gonna go with this is a book that I will not read. Like I said, don't really do YA romance, and none of the things I've heard about that book are compelling enough to make me read it. A Touch of Darkness. No, for the same reasons that I won't read Neon Gods, so that's a book I'll never read. Dance of Thieves. This is a book I have not read, but would like to maybe read. Probably soon. Again, I have the physical copy, and I would like to read it soon. Every Summer After. This is a book I have read and loved. I read it last month and I absolutely adored it. The Silent Patient, I'm not gonna lie, like this wasn't a 5-star book for me, but I'm still going to put it in this is a book I have read, loved, and made my entire personality for several months, because while I think I gave it like a 4.5 stars. I absolutely loved it. I just struggle to give thrillers 5 stars, like just in general. But anytime anybody recommends a thriller, or anytime anybody asks for a thriller recommendation, The Silent Patient is what I say. I talk about it so much. I made it, like, it was a personality trait for a really, really long time. I, like, immediately texted a whole bunch of people. I was like, you have to read this book, you have to read this book. So, normal people, this is a book I have not read, but would maybe like to read. The only reason I would ever consider reading it is because I own it. I don't remember when I got it or where I got it, but I own it, so I will read it at some point, even though it doesn't particularly interest me. The Fine Print. This is a book I read and loved, and honestly, like, I don't know that I'd recommend it. But it is a book that I read and loved. The second one I didn't love as much, but The Fine Print, yeah. Book lovers, this is a book I've read and loved. I love Emily Henry. She announced her new book last night. I'm so excited. I don't know why I've gone into that accent. Book lovers, I loved. Conversations with Friends. I'm not going to read that one. I just had like a friend whose recommendations I trust absolutely hate that book, so I'm not going to read it. Love in Other Words. No, you go way up high. You go up high. This is a book I have read, loved, and made my entire personality for several months. I love in Other Words, as I already talked about. One of my top 3 favorite romance books of all time. Absolutely adored it. The Unhoneymooners. This is a book I read. I loved it. I did at the time. However, looking back, it is nothing more than a book I have read. Although, I did just put in a recommendation video, so I guess I have to put this is a book I have read and would recommend. Sorry, I had to switch that, because I forgot that I actually did, in fact, recommend. The Invisible Life of Addie Larue. This is a book I loved. This is a book I've read and loved. I don't really remember much about it, but it's a book I read and loved. It ends with us. Maybe I'll read it. Maybe. I don't know, but maybe. The Wall of Winnipeg and Me. This is a book I've read and loved. I loved that book. I think I gave it 5 stars, but again, like, I don't remember much about it. I think I used to be a little too generous with my 5 stars, and now it'd probably be like a 4.5, but I did love it. Reminders of Him, I'll give it a shot. So this is a book I have not read, but would like to maybe read. The Maddest Obsession, I'll put it in I would like to read, but it's not likely. But I also am not going to say never. The Love Hypothesis. Okay, this book was my personality for several months. I absolutely love The Love Hypothesis. And the new one, what's it called? Love on the Brain. Love on the Brain comes out last week of August. 23rd, I want to say? Maybe? I could be wrong. To Love, Jason Thorne. Okay, guys. So before this book got the fancy new covers, I tried to read it. And I didn't like the book that much. I tried it, but I only read like the first 50 pages. So, is it called a DNF? I'm not going to read it. I don't have any desire to pick that book back up. Even though I've seen a lot of TikToks, like, of people really into this book. I don't have any desire to pick it back up. Good Girl's Guide to Murder. This is a book I have not read, but would like to maybe read. I have it upstairs in my, on my book cart, but I just can't get around to it. I don't know that I want to read it, but I have it, so I'm not going to say never. The Hating Game. It's a book I wish I hadn't read. I hate The Hating Game, okay? And I'm not going to be quiet about it either. I hated that book. It was so No, I hated that book. I hated that book. So I wish I hadn't read it. Heartstopper. This is a book I've read. They're cute, unmemorable, except there's that TikTok. Sorry if the angle changed a little bit. I had to restart it because I ran out of storage. Anyway, I was talking about Where the Crawdads Sing. Look up Delia Owens, wanted for questioning a murder. She's wanted in questioning for a murder in Africa and wrote a book that with a very similar storyline to the murder that she's wanted for. I'm not reading that. Not reading that book. Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This is a book I've read. I wouldn't recommend. I didn't really like it. But I know I'm alone in that. So, yeah, whatever. I'm not reading it. I have read it. but I'm not super impressed with it. The Atlas 6, this is a book I read and loved. I absolutely loved the Atlas 6, and I can't wait for the next one. I don't remember what the next one's called. I think it comes out in September. And I'm so sad. I'm so excited. That's what I was trying to say. All right, that was me tier ranking popular BookTok books. Like I said, that was just my own humble opinion. However, I hope you enjoyed or, you know, learned a little bit more about my reading tastes. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you feel so inclined, and I will see you when I see you. Bye, guys.